Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Yashwendra Singh, Executive Editor of ETCIO, and also the moderator of this topical panel discussion on staying compliant, to be or not to be, how to keep up, what's the business impact, organized jointly by ETCIO and NICE. Talking about regulatory changes, in India alone, we've observed 838 regulatory changes since March 25th this year. Cost and damage of missing compliance is steep. It is anticipated that the proposed Personal Data Protection Bill may impose fines on non compliant organizations to the tune of 2 to 4% of their global turnover, or between rupees 5 crore and rupees 15 crore. In addition, the damage on the brand, reputation, and customer trust is likely to flag high and travel far in today's digital age. As the gig economy takes center stage, we see increasing contractual employees as part of many business approaches. This further puts pressure on compliance as data security and privacy become increasingly challenging for enterprises to manage. In this panel discussion today, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us top business and technology experts from large enterprises who will discuss these critical compliance related issues and share some real world solutions to them. Please join me in welcoming our panelists of the day in alphabetical order: Ms. Babita BP, CISO CSB Bank; Mr. Bharat Panchal, Chief Risk Officer, India, Middle East and Africa, FIS; Mr. Deepu KV, President and Head Operations and Customer Service, Bajaj Allianz Life Insurance; Mr. GM Shenoy, CTO Operations, National Stock Exchange; Mr. Jerome Lambert, Business Development Director, APAC, Compliance Line of Business, NICE; Mr. Pawan Chawla, CISO Future Generali, India Life Insurance; Mr. Prasanna Lohar, Head Digital and Innovation, DCB Bank; and Mr. Sudhakar, President and Chief Compliance Officer, Kotak Bank. Welcome, panelists. So, now, without any more ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'll set the ball rolling with Mr. Sudhakar. Sir, regulation has always been a bit of a political football. Some say that we should drastically reduce the burden of regulation, while others point out that regulation is vital to prevent or punish bad corporate behavior. Your thoughts here, sir. How crucial are regulatory changes and compliance? How do they impact an enterprise, a business, and the role of an enterprise technology leader here? Your thoughts here, sir.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Ash. Thanks for inviting me to this webinar. I would answer this question from the perspective of the BFSI sector, that is banking, finance, securities, and insurance. Before I tell the impact and all, we all have to keep it in mind that the regulations in the BFI sector are basically aimed at three objectives. First is the depositor and investor protection. Second is to prevent money laundering and prevent the frauds. And the third is sustainable financial stability. Now, in order to achieve these, it is very important for every organization to adhere to the compliance standards. And adhering to the compliance standards, which we at Kotak have found it very efficient, is first of all, you will get the confidence of the customers and investors, which will increase the business. And then you will have the ability to deal with the global players, whether it is with your correspondent banks or your overseas branches or overseas partners and all. They will not deal with you if you are not compliant. And then it is a very important factor in governance, especially in this ESG environmental, social, and governance factors are gaining wide recognition across all segments. The crucial aspect for a financial entity is governance, and compliance to regulatory prescriptions is a very integral part of the governance framework. And there has been very strong evidence of correlation between the level of governance and compliance and increase in business. If you have seen in the recent past the demise of either failure of the organizations, stroke managements, which have not given due importance to compliance, whether you take the failure of big cooperative bank, a large NBFC, a stockbroker, or a bank, you will see that they have all been due to over the time non-compliance to the regulatory standards. So why it is very essential for a BFSI entity to be compliant? And if you are compliant, the very factor is the trust. If you are compliant, you will, the customers, the investors, all stakeholders will have a lot of trust in you, which will increase not only your brand value but also your business. So hence, while regulatory changes are very crucial because the larger objectives are in the interest of the country, the adherence to the regulatory prescriptions is crucial for the entity because it will ensure that your stakeholders have trust in you. Now, compliance is very complex. The regulations are very complex and they have to be very fast implemented. Unless you leverage on technology, you cannot attain very high standards of compliance. And the philosophy we follow and the philosophy which everyone should follow is compliance is everybody's business. It's not a specialization. So every entity should ensure that compliance is in its culture, not as a department.
Sure.
That's my thought on the importance of
Sure.
compliance.
Great inputs there, sir. Let me move to Mr. Shenoy now. Mr. Shenoy, do you echo Mr. Sudhakar's inputs there when he says compliance is everybody's business? Your thoughts here, sir? Because I feel today the BFSI industry is subject to one of the most intricate regulatory systems that applies to any business. Your thoughts?
So, like Sudhakar has succinctly, put it that, compliance is for growing the business. I mean, 1990s, we opened the market to global markets, and that was a time in 1994, the National Stock Exchange came into, place. And we will see that, the amount of foreign investors who have invested in India from that time has been phenomenal. So like Sudhakar said, the investors need confidence that the markets will run properly, the markets will run in a compliant manner, and that can be ensured only by regulation. And if at all today the foreign money is coming to the markets and the stock exchanges, it is because we have a very strong regulatory framework and we ensure compliance to that. Of course, from a business perspective, there is the balance between doing compliance and doing business. Over compliance adds to the cost of the business. So what we have to do is to keep a sharp compass in place to ensure that the balance between business and compliance is always there. But I totally echo Sudhakar's words that business can grow only with compliance, and we all have to ensure that compliance is the part on which our business is built. That is from my side. Stock exchange has grown because of the SEBI coming into place. So it is there for everybody to see, and I don't need to say anything more on that.
Great. Let me move to Mr. Deepu now. Mr. Deepu, your thoughts here, sir. How critical or how crucial are regulatory regulation changes, compliance in today's business environment for enterprises? Your thoughts?
Yeah. So, firstly, good morning, Yash. Fellow panelists and the audience. I guess it's a no-brainer, Yash. I mean, compliance is the foundation on which business is built. If you see today from the perspective of consumers, employees, and partners, your reputation matters, and reputation has a strong foundation based on compliance. And if you look specifically at financial services, I think there are a few things to take care of. One is identification, the other is prevention, thirdly, detection. And when you focus on these three aspects, then you're able to build a strong brand for yourself. So I think there is absolutely no gainsaying the importance of compliance in today's business environment.
Sure, Mr. Deepu. Let me move to Jerome now. Jerome, I'm sure you would be interacting with lots of technology leaders, business leaders across enterprises. What do you hear from them? What kind of importance are they according to regulatory changes and compliance in their organizations?
Yeah, sure. I mean, good morning, everyone. So indeed, what we hear from our customers is clearly that if they want to stay in the game, they need to comply, no choice. And we also talk to the regulators, and it's very interesting what Sudhakar said, because you have to comply with the local regulation, of course, in your country, in your own jurisdictions, but you also have to comply with the global regulations if you want to be able to stay in the global game. And when we talk about building trust, building confidence, I guess what the regulators are expecting it is, I would say, transparency, right? They need transparency in how you are doing your business, how you interact with your customers, how you deliver the right level of advice to your clients as well. Transparency in the trading process, in the operations. This is really what the regulators are expecting locally and globally. And if we take the example of the PDPB, it's another illustration where a global regulation, like in Europe, the GDPR, will have some kind of local translation, I would say, in India. So, and again, if you want to play on the global market, on the global role, you need to comply with global regulations and local regulations, bringing more transparency on how you do your business. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Great, Jerome. Let me move on to Mr. Panchal now. Sir, what challenges in adhering to regulatory changes and their compliances do you see? As a result of COVID-19, I feel several new factors or considerations have come into the picture when we talk about regulations and compliance. For instance, there has been an increase in contractual employees. Data security has become extremely important as we now have a distributed enterprise, right, with the employees working from home. So what new challenges have emerged because of the pandemic that are impacting compliance?
Thank you, Yash, for having me on this panel discussion. Indeed, let me answer on first point that what are the challenges? The biggest challenge is about a mindset. The mindset that compliance and risk are considered to be a support function or obligatory function, but that is not the reality today, because as Mr. Shinoy or Sudhakar sir was telling about, compliance is everybody's responsibilities, and that's the reality in today's world, because it is not a specialist job or a chief compliance officer or chief risk officer's responsibility to ensure that we always remain compliant and risk free. It is everybody's business. So that has gone in the as a integral part of the environment slowly, gradually. And thankfully, COVID has supported this in larger terms, where people have understood that kind of challenges what we came across because of COVID. Compliance is like what you extended work from home. Compliance and risk requirement also have been extended to other even sitting at home. So that's a completely new challenge. Nobody thought of about opening the entire secure gateway or secure network or secure environment in which you are running your businesses to this large extent. Like what you have seen, that most of the organization are today working from home, which was nothing but a miracle, because like my organization, we have 65,000 people. Roughly around 95% people are working from home, and they are from remote location. So having all these challenges, what is important that how you remain compliant, because knowing the regulator very well, they haven't diluted any regulatory requirement, come what may, even though in this pandemic period. Did you find any relaxation from, of course, filing GST and IT return is not a relaxation per se, but for the business in the banking or in in insurance or any business in which we are today, there is no relaxation. So the message is very clear: come what may, you have to comply. Whether you're working from home, you're working from your own office, wherever you are. So that is one part of the thing. However, the compliance requirement have changed heavily, because the cybersecurity challenges, which are dynamic in nature, is not something which the money market challenges, where we know that forex rate may fluctuate not that rapidly. Then what challenges we are facing as a security professional, because for us there are 500,000 new malware coming every day, and that you have to ensure that everyone who is connected with your network, be it from home, be it from any remote location, having Windows XP, having Windows or Microsoft any other version, or iOS any version. So that's the largest challenge, and we need to ensure that 500,000 new malware or new viruses come, that everyone connecting with the network, ensuring that is in compliance with my security policy. Now on top of that, there's a regulators policy and the enterprise level policy. So that has made the whole situation a little complex. But I must tell you that the people have taken this in a right spirit, and I do see that people are religiously following the instructions, from the compliance officer or the risk officer to make sure that we remain compliant all the time. Thank you.
Sure, sure. Great, sir. So, Mr. Chawla, like you heard Mr. Panchal, thousands of employees in his organization, 95% of them working from home, security issues, yet, regulators have been not lenient at all. What challenges do you encounter in meeting these requirements?
I second the thought of Mr. Panchal and most of the points which Mr. Shenoy and Mr. Deepu and Sudhakar sir have already said. The compliances requirement which has been laid down by the regulators are to safeguard the interest of the customers. And when you go in that line, you have to ensure that each and every step you take in the organization has to be focused on with the prime responsibility of safeguarding the interest of the customer only. So these days, since data is the fuel, and if we know that the kind of data which is floating in the organization, and we have to ensure that the kind of malware which are getting created or are circulated across the globe, we need to ensure that we save, we create a parameter in such a way that the data stays within the organization, within the limited scope of with the limited scope of people who need to know about the data, rather than having it circulated across the organization and have people having access to the data handedly. Even if you look at some of the studies which have been rolled out, and I was reading a couple of them last week. Since January, there are around 500 domains have been registered every day. Now, by looking at that number, what people are doing, I mean, you can make it out from that itself that kind of attacks people are, the kind of malwares which are getting circulated over the email. There are different methodology of attacks which hackers are thinking of. And all those things why don't to give a sleepless night to all the CISOs across the globe, because they have to ensure that the parameter is secure and the people are well versed with the latest form of the attacks. And in that, the awareness plays a very good role, very important role, because you need to ensure that whatever you experience or whatever you have received a notification on, you convert it into a language which people understand and have it circulated internally. And that's what we primarily do in our organization, to make everybody aware of the latest threats, and we ensure that everybody understands the nitty-gritty of it, ensure they do not click on anything which has come across to them, uh, which could lead to a potential attack. And not only us which are doing it, and I thank to all the government authorities as well for helping us out in preparing that. There are different which are doing, like NCIIPC, the certain the other regulators. Sometimes IIT also sent us the threat advisories which we need to take care. We proactively take an action on that. Uh, I like the one of the point which Mr. Deepu has mentioned about the detection, but along with the detection, I would say a response is equally important, because it is, once you detect, you have to respond to what you have detected to ensure it should not lead to another problem. Right?
Absolutely.
That's what we are focusing on. To give you some numbers, we have looked into more than 7,000 advisories in 7 months. More than 7,000 advisories, and we have acted upon all those 7 advisories to the others might have done that as well. But these are the feeds which we have got from potential the authenticated sources, and we have acted upon that. Similarly, there are proactive actions taken on securing the parameter, because now the parameter has changed. Earlier, it used to be firewall or the IPS, IDS, and other devices which are there, router probably in some organization. But now it has gone to the endpoint. You have to ensure the data on the endpoint is securing. The awareness plays a very critical role in ensuring that whatever threats are coming across or getting generated or making aware of, people are getting, we should pass that knowledge to each and every individual.
Sure.
So to counter that out, how we did it, I can give you an example. We create specialized training for that.
So
very
so
can
sorry
be
to interrupt you,
protected.
sir. Sorry to interrupt you, but we'll come to your
Absolutely.
strategies in dealing with this later on. But great inputs there. Let me come to Babita ma'am now. So Babita ma'am, I feel security is just one of the challenges that technology or business leaders face. I believe if the top management doesn't buy into the importance of compliance, then people working lower down won't buy it either. So that could be another challenge, right? So what challenges do you encounter in your organization with respect to compliance here?
Yeah, good morning to all, and thank you, Ash, for this question. As you rightly said, when it comes to cybersecurity, cyber actors are innovating new cyber security risks by introducing new malwares, trojans, and ransomwares and all. And in this pandemic situation, the attack vector has increased more than 37%. So these scenarios, we have to keep all these things in our mind and to understand the current and future of cybersecurity and have to protect them, our organization, from these emerging threats.
Sure.
To enable organization to harden their security postures. So from a regulatory compliance perspective, I will say that it's helping CISOs to improve the security posture of the organization. And it is with till this RBI has come up with the cybersecurity framework in 2016. BFSIs were not much focused on the security aspects, and there was no CISO or security team. So I consider it of more of advantage, and because of that, now top management and board is also involving in ensuring the security posture of the bank. When we come to the challenges, so mostly I will say it is always an advantage to follow and comply to the regulatory controls. And as other panelists has rightly said, it should be part of the culture, and it is what that will build the trust of customers towards us. And when we are taking into the challenges that we are facing for the implementation of this control, we have to fulfill these standardized controls within a time frame. And for that, we have to make more of investments into that, which sometimes vendors are taking advantage, and that to be done within the time frame. And more security controls and tools need to be implemented with the allotted budget. So there comes a bit of challenge how we can put in forward all this. And even if we have put all these controls, how we are monitoring it, how regularly we are reviewing that controls are actually in place, that makes a lot of sense. How it will protect our environment, that is what it counts. When we cover the new compliances which are coming into, like Data Privacy Act and all, when it comes into existence, we have to see how from all aspects of data collection, processing, and storing of the data in all state, how we'll be protecting and protecting the data, and how it will be maintained, whether the existing encryption of data in motion and rest, whether that will serve the purpose, or more controls need to be put in place. So whenever new regulation acts come into existence, there will be always a small challenge with respect to the implementation of it and to monitor. And this will be, it is an ongoing process. It is not a one-time thing. Well, for new thing, they will be coming with new regulatory standards and measurements, and we have to follow.
Sure.
And the organization should are investing more money, human resources, and time to meet the regulatory compliance. But we have to focus more on the inherent vulnerabilities also. There should be a balance between the regulations and the security. So how we have to invest based on the how we can achieve both. So that is my primary thought.
Sure. Great, great inputs there, ma'am. Move to Mr. Sudhakar, now. Sir, any other inputs besides what the other panelists talked about? Security?
Yeah. Coming to the various challenges that the enterprises are facing today, other than what my fellow panelists, learned panelists have told, I have 3 important points which I want to mention. The first and foremost thing which we have to recognize is majority of the regulations are reactive. When something happens, some cybersecurity incident happens, or some fraud happens, the regulation changes. Now, these reactive regulations need a quicker response from institutions and faster implementation. That's the major challenge with which every institution faces today. So unless institutions have enough technological background and then investments, they cannot face this. The second challenge, which I feel, especially in the BFI, which my fellow panelists will agree, is the balancing the act between customer satisfaction and regulatory requirement. Today, customer is the king and customer wants the moon. Now, when I want to give him everything, I can't be doing so within the regulatory framework. So finding a balance between customer requirements and the regulatory prescriptions is a very tight walk on a thin sword, thin-edged sword. And the third one, which is very important, which every sector is facing today, is the Gen X, a HR issue. The Gen X is very ambitious. Their work style is different, and the high attrition is because of their ambitions. It's not a negative factor, but it's a very positive factor. But keeping the organizational values, organizational culture in such a generation is a very big challenge for the organizations today. So compliance culture, imbibing compliance culture within the short period when they are here, and when the new employee comes into the organization, how quickly we imbibe him into the organization. These are the three different challenges I see than what my other panelists have told.
Great, great. Let me come to Jerome now. Jerome, you've heard, everybody, the challenges that they are facing. What I feel is, there's a very basic challenge, and that is not having a good risk assessment framework in place. I believe, that's also a challenge, because you'll waste a lot of time in putting in place, controls for less critical activities if you don't have a robust, good risk assessment in place. Your thoughts here, after hearing all the panelists, what additional challenges do you think people face?
Yes, so having a proper risk assessment is indeed very important. But on the current situation, one of the challenge that we've heard from our clients, it is specifically on the communications, because all of the sudden you have a lot of people working from home, as we said earlier, and also, as we said, the regulator, there is no relaxation, right? So you have plenty of people who are using new communication tools to talk to their customers, to talk to their business partners, or the traders, to talk to the brokers, for instance, or the relationship manager talking to the clients. So all these new communication modalities, they're very quickly. And we have some clients, they are calling us because they don't know how to record these, for instance, just the recording of these new communications. And if we look at the guidelines from SEBI, it's very clear that Indian financial firms, they need to record all communications associated with order placed by clients. But 6 months ago, clients didn't place order using WhatsApp or using Microsoft Teams. Maybe 6 months ago, you were placing the order with a traditional telephony system, or maybe face-to-face. So what type of controls do you have for these new communication modalities that are used by 90% of your staff right now? So recording, monitoring of communication modalities because of the working from home situation, this is clearly one of the challenges that we have seen from our customers. And last but not least, yes, SEBI is watching us, because I guess it was in June, they have penalized an individual because this person was releasing unpublished financial information about a large firm in India prior to the official results. And this information has been released using WhatsApp. So you are using new communication modalities, your employees are everywhere. How do you capture that? How do you record? How do you monitor in order to avoid this type of news hurting your firm, being penalized by SEBI because your employees are using inappropriate communication modalities? So this is one of the hot topics for us right now, because it's coming from our clients.
Sure, sure. No, that's really very relevant, Jerome. Great. Moving on, I'll come to Mr. Deepu. Sir, organizations that have traditionally managed compliance in ad hoc, manual, paper-based, and people-dependent ways, they're clearly struggling to manage compliance now. What do you feel are the key technologies and strategies that CIOs, CISOs, even other C-suite members can adopt to ensure compliance in today's world?
Yeah, that's a good, question, Yash. And from whatever I have seen, there are about 6 to 7 areas, which firms can focus on. One, of course, is to look at, risk assessment and risk management, like how my co-panelists, pointed out. We can actually leverage technology to streamline the formal, risk assessment process by centralizing data, conducting analysis, and facilitating prioritization. Second is from an incident perspective, looking at reporting, hotline, incident tracking, and case management. And there are well-established, technology service providers, who can facilitate this process. Third is policy management. If people can leverage a workflow management functionality, it can help, create communication at scale. Fourth, which is typically underrated, is a good training and learning management system. Because while we all focus on the data and the technology and the process, we typically tend to forget, that it is a human being, where, these issues can actually happen. Then the other is communication management, which is linked to training and learning. Training and learning is more episodic, whereas communication, is more widespread and, continuous. And then the last two bits are, one is on third-party screening and due diligence, extremely important today because we all operate in an ecosystem. And the last one is, data privacy, looking at all the contracts and looking at all the tools, which can ensure that.
Sure, sure. Great. Mr. Shenoy, what technologies can technology and business leaders leverage for better compliance?
Yeah, as like Jerome said, what I see is the major challenge to compliance is that not only the adoption of new technologies, the pace of technology adoption also. Like if you see in this COVID period, we suddenly moved from working in a limited area to working out from remote areas, etc. You don't know where your data is, in which cloud it is, etc. So that has brought in a slew of new technologies to manage compliance, etc. I mean, we have bots which help in compliance. We have OCR technologies which help in compliance. You said rightly that those organizations which have leveraged on manual efforts have failed to keep pace in this. So we need more and more technology to be compliant, also to monitor the technology. And you also spoke about framework for risk assessment to become better. We have looked at COVID in a major way, and the risk assessment in COVID is a very good framework. It is not tied to any company or anything. It is by a organization which is independent. I think that would be a good thing, irrespective of which technology you use, irrespective of which area you use, to inculcate controls in the organization to bring about enhanced compliance. That is my view on this.
I'll move to Ms. Babita. Ma'am, your thoughts here.
What I do agree with what my co-panelist has suggested. We need a technology to monitor the technology. So with respect to when it comes to cybersecurity, with different regulations, we have to implement multiple controls in our organization to comply with those regulations. And we need an integrated compliance model across the organization to keep the compliance risk in check and to ensure that policies and standards are followed at every level of the organization. For that, we should formulate a compliance framework which refers to the set of guidelines and policies that need to be followed, and it need to be circulated among the employees who is working with it, so that we can create a culture of compliance across the organization. And with respect to adhering to these controls, what we say that we are deploying, for example, we are deploying this DML solutions and all, or to see the machines and laptops which are out of the office. But now fraudsters started using this technology to deploy malware in the laptops and all. So it is how we are implementing. It is the way and how we are monitoring the configurations, whether it is being done in the right way. That is what is more challenging. So since we are having multiple solutions to integrate and to have a single dashboard of compliance and configuration of all this is a really challenging nowadays. There are two security tools with which will automate this by sending the mails and reminders. This VAPT tools that are having automations which will see that the compliance are kept in place or not. So we need all this in a single dashboard so that we can monitor it on a regular basis and we can review it on a regular basis. So which is a kind of a manual as well as technological advancement which is required for this.
Sure, ma'am. Great to have Mr. Lohar back. Prasanna sir, I wanted your inputs on a couple of questions, but you are not accessible. Great to have you back, sir. So what I wanted to know from you, sir, was what are the key technologies and strategies that business and technology leaders can adopt to ensure compliance? I know you work with a lot of cutting edge technologies in your organization. Would be great to hear your thoughts.
So I think it's a very big question you asked, and you want an answer in a 10 or I think a few minutes. But I think very most important, apart from technology, what is needed in the organization to address a compliance is that a collaboration between among all the stakeholders. So typically in a bank level, every bank has a compliance department. Its job is to collaborate or track all the compliance relevant issues, which are those issues like which are reported issues. Okay, so now how do we really comply, right, before the issues to be reported? So I think there is a linear process at every bank, starting from a business requirement till it goes live, and every stakeholder is responsible for that. So there we do not have any room for any of the technology to be incorporated and let's see if we are comply. As a bank, we have the process which is being documented and reviewed by a regulator, and we have to follow that process. So say example, if I am developing something, it has to be reviewed by IT security for a VAPT, or followed by IT audit, or followed by a relevant infra. So it has to be followed in a disciplined manner. Now coming back, how do we really comply with the help of some technology or something like that? So we can take examples, right? Where are those gaps, or what are the compliance relevant things, or how do we really meet those targets? If, for example, one of the compliance could be like, are we providing adaptive authentication to your customers, right? So that if some customer say, so say example, Yashwendra usually logs in from Mumbai, and all of a sudden some login request coming from Chandigarh or outside of India, how are we going to do? So there are technologies are available, like some products like adaptive authentication, like RSA is available, or at the same time FRM is available to track requests are coming from where. So RSA provides an second level authentication or a step up. So these are technologies are available. At the same time, we can always look at how consumer is moving, right? So consumer is moving more onto the mobility. So at the channel level itself, can we not bring more security controls through behavioral biometrics or biometrics for a customer? So Yashwendra knows my MP, still is not able to log in. Why? Because the way I operate on my device and the way you operate on a behavioral pattern of your operating your fingers or stress on the keyboard or on mobile, it is different. So these are the these technologies are also in our life now. So it becomes one more challenge for hackers to really get through, because I operate my phone in my right hand, I have my own pressure. So it's a learning which happens on the phones. On the channel side, we can look at it. Like AI, artificial intelligence is a very big subject, but we can really use some of the flavors like machine learning within a fraud risk management to learn patterns from that customer, or we can learn the data and we can create a 360-degree behavioral profile of that customer in the backend. So wherein AI can come into picture. Some of the tasks like wherein a lot of manual errors are there. So wherein compliance always come and ask to do automation. Please automate complete reconciliation process, or automate this add, delete, modify process. At data center, there are a lot of back office processes. How do we automate, right? So I can say, let me automate on Excel or let me do some kind of a bot. So RPA is a technology is very important. Robotic process automation. But when you when you look at RPA implementation in India so far in organizations, typically it's a first level of RPA. It's not only intelligent. So it has a room of how do we create a, let's say example, I was doing a call, right? And there are several such calls or patterns of calls going to my contact center. I can really create a bot who can ad hoc give that answers to the calls, because these are typical requests which can be just like, let me know my balance. I can forward it to my bot, which is a robot or a software bot. So I don't have to invest much on the operational or contact center agents. So I think on a larger scale, there are in every area we can really see what all technology adoption can happen. KYC is something which we have a lot of challenges, like after during pandemic, people are not visiting branches, or nor our agents are visiting houses to collect the KYC. So I think to meet that compliance and to have that completion of full KYC for Aadhaar KYC, the video KYC adoption, I think many banks have adopted that journey in the last 3 to 4 months. We have implemented one of the video KYC for one of the application, straight through application.
Great.
So I think technology will always come into our life. Okay. So, but at the same time, how you are implementing the technology, now before pandemic and post pandemic, cloud adoption is huge within a bank also.
Right.
Banks have started adopting cloud on analytics, on or to have some algorithms to learn on that data, which requires a lot of throughput, right? So can you not do it on cloud, where the required throughput or required efforts can be elongated as much as you want. So it is not possible in the in-house hardware, right? You cannot put a RAM, or you cannot put a particular high-end CPU immediately when the data is increased. So that is possible in cloud. So as data will increase, my compliance requirements are also asking that same MIS, same report, right? So how do we meet that timeline? So having elongated architecture within an organization or outside of the organization cloud, it's a very important aspect. There are a lot of products which are being apart from video KYC, which are non-banking products, are offered for banks or even fintechs are creating their products on a cloud first. So it's very important while I am going for a cloud-based applications, how we are assessing those. So I think on those lines, every bank is now getting ready. How typically we have our own checklist, we have our own method to really see how the data privacy and data security done for our bank when we are going for a cloud-ready application.
Right.
So I think in a nutshell, technology is a really a game changer. We'll keep on talking. I think challenge will be like when we'll adopt blockchains or 5G in the future or IoTs in future. That time compliance role will also different. They will also have to learn these new technologies and come back. What is that needs to be added? Yeah.
Great. Very thanks a ton for that very comprehensive answer, Prasanna sir. Mr. Panchal, do you want to add anything in addition to what Mr. Lohar said? Any other technology that comes to your mind? He's talked about RPA, cloud, blockchain, probably. Anything else?
No, I think Prasanna has, he always cover things so widely and doesn't leave room for others too. But I must tell you one thing, apart from the technology, the conversion between three pillars of control functions like risk, compliance, and audit has to be, converged, in current situation, because, the compliance is not static. So far, the risk is also not static. It is dynamic, because the challenges are very, very dynamic, and therefore, the frequency of audit or risk assessment or compliance check has increased multifold. Now, having all three in a single basket or single, stage, what you need to have a technology which can enable you, and that take slowly, gradually from reactive to proactive, or I would say sometimes predictive analysis, which can help such technology which can help you to detect the possible, kind of non-compliance or some risk may emerge later or sooner. If that can help, that's where probably we are all moving towards, because the AI, blockchain, all this, huge technical jargon which we are keep on hearing for many years. But when it comes to one side of uses to enable your business to increase revenue or increase growth, up to that, it is not limited to that part. So, the same technology, the same new gen technology need to be invested for the compliance and risk function as well, because yes, since there's a business, there's a risk. It cannot be otherwise. But risk and compliance are equally important in today's world, where you just cannot leave, was just tick in the box. If we really go back 2 decades ago, when compliance was just tick in the box or risk was tick in the box, leave about everything. The business continuity was just tick in the box before pandemic. Right, everybody, business continuity is one small subset to the larger risk framework. But I'm just giving it as an example. So we really don't know that tomorrow the EDD and CDD in compliance parlance may come with a newer terminology, and you may require not only from KYC, not only from the banking transition, but it may so happen that the technology enablement you have done for your business, that also require dynamic compliance very continuously. It may so happen that you may have to ship the log of your devices to a centralized location where somebody will monitor and look at the overall security for the entire business segment or the sector or for the national security. So we need to think from amalgamation of risk, compliance, and audit in very converged way with the new gen technology to be used.
Sure. Great, sir. Jerome.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree. I would summarize in 2 points. So we believe first, of course, that technology can help, to move from an ad hoc manual compliance to something more systematic, more robust, more intelligent in terms of compliance monitoring. And we see 2 areas. So the first one is cloud. So clearly the cloud is it's key in order to quickly deploy, quickly roll out, quickly scale, as we said. So we believe that nowadays all compliance programs should really consider cloud adoption. This is one area. And the second one, it is AI and machine learning. AI, Mr. Lohr talked about it, AI and machine learning, because AI and machine learning will bring you 2 benefits: better detection and more efficiency. So better detection in terms of risk pattern, no matter what it is, an AML risk, a KYC risk, a transaction risk, or a communication risk over the phone. So AI and machine learning will help you to better detect more accurately. You will be able to quickly highlight the true positive. And secondly, AI and machine learning will help you to be more efficient in terms of reviewing the alerts, accessing the voice transcription, for instance, of the call. You make a call, all of a sudden you have the written transcription. You will be more efficient to review a call if you have the written transcription, and a written transcription will be generated by AI and machine learning algorithm. Provide a faster response time to a customer request. As you said earlier, AI and machine learning will help to be more efficient. So again, 2 areas, cloud and AI and machine learning. And AI and machine learning will bring you 2 benefits: better detection and more efficiency in the compliance area in general.
Great, Jerome. My next question is to Mr. Chawla. Chawla, does compliance have a direct bearing on business? We already know the flip side of not adhering to regulations. In addition to massive penalties, not being compliant can damage brand reputation and customer trust in today's digital age. But can ensuring compliance help in boosting business? That's my question. Can it have a direct impact on the top line or the bottom line of a company?
It definitely does, Yash, because whatever you are doing, whatever you are implementing, whatever you are making sure, and by meeting the regulator compliance, you are building a trust in the mind of the customer. And the better trust you build, the better you will come up with, and the better deliverable you will deliver to your customer. It will help in bringing in more customers for the organization and delivering and meeting up to the expectation of both the regulator and the customer. Hence, whatever we talked about, the technologies Prasanna mentioned, Bharat Panchal backed, Joanne mentioned, the technologies can only help you enable the business, but at the end, it is the meeting the compliance and building a trust in the mind of the customer, which gets you the business. And hence, it is very important to comply with all the requirements to enhance your business.
Sure, sir. Babita ma'am, what's your take on this? Because you know, a lot of people say compliance management and proactive identification, tracking of risk and resolution of issues lead to better operating performance. Do you feel that's true and you know somehow adds to the top line or the bottom line?
Yeah, of course, it is always add to the means like even we can say that security posture of the organization will add on to the share value of the company. When we say that a company is ISO certified or BCIDS is compliant or the standard is followed or CMM level standards are followed, that means the organization is following the best practices and procedures, and it gives a confidence to the stakeholders as well as the customers that this company we can invest trustfully and they will take care of our data, our money very well.
Jerome, your
yes, we have this situation very often with our customers because we are on the communication, on the voice business, and the typical example it is with the recording and the voice analytics. I have to invest on voice recording because it's mandatory. Okay, I need to comply. But voice is data. So what type of intelligence can I derive from the voice data that I need to capture? And this is where, you know, a compliance driver can become also a business driver. We record interactions, but these data, these interactions can be very helpful for me, not only to better monitor my employees, but also to better understand what my clients want, what are the trends, you know, what my relationship are discussing with my customers. So you can derive a lot of business insight and valuable analytics from the voice, even though you have to record the voice for compliance reasons. So I guess this is an area where, you know, sometimes clearly compliance can add and bring some value on the top line, maybe by, you know, converting these the data that the compliance require into meaningful business insights or business output. This is what we have seen sometimes. Yeah.
Great. So panelists, we are fast running out of time. So one final question to all of you before we open the session for questions from our attendees. So I'll request you to be very crisp and concise in your answers. So first, I'll start with Mr. Shenoy here. Sir, as senior business and technology leaders, we all realize the importance of regulations and their compliance. So what are you doing in your organization to stay on top of regulatory change and compliance?
So I think, you know, I'll take a cue from what Deepu said. You know, what we look at is, you know, the whole life cycle, you know, identify, protect, detect, and respond. You know, we look at, you know, compliance from the entire life cycle and see, you know, like appropriately, how do we address various compliance issues in this life cycle and try to, you know, build as strong a compliance portfolio as possible using the entire life cycle.
Sure. Great. Mr. Deepu.
Yeah, yeah. Keep it crisp. Two very important points. One is strong governance. The other is strong culture.
Great. That was really crisp, concise, and to the point. Mr. Sudhakar.
Yeah, as I already said, in Kotak, compliance is everybody's business, but the main thrust comes from the top management. The top management is directly involved in compliance and they don't compromise there. And we also use a lot of AI and ML in ensuring that compliance is disseminated and monitored and implemented.
Great. Mr. Chawla.
The two key takeaways from the discussion is one, spread awareness related to cyber to ensure the compliance for the organization. So cyber security, I would say, to spread as much awareness as much as we can. The second is stay vigilant, stay safe.
Sure. Great. Mr. Lohar.
Yeah. So I think in a nutshell, I think I am all with you all guys. So technology will always be there, right? So, but how existing pool of people understand the new way of handling this technology compliance is very, very important. The reskilling will be the one of the thing. Like they say example yesterday, my CISO was aware of something. Now he has to reskill himself, and I think it's a responsibility of every person who is within the organization. to how to really adhere to this discipline. So it's a responsibility of every guy to reskill themselves, also get into the next level, and keep adopting whatever the new technologies are coming in the way.
Great, sir. Mr. Panchal.
I believe technology is definitely integral part, but for me, I believe the tone at the top and really exhibit that into your commitment, which can really focus on changing the mindset of people. Because whatever good technology you may have, till the time your mindset is not there, no tool can help you. So technology, yes, it is supporting aid, but mindset is more important.
Great, sir. Mindset and technology. Great. Babita ma'am.
Takeaway point is that compliance is everyone's business. It should be part of the organization's culture. And it is not only being complied, it is like we have to keep it ongoing and have to review and monitor using technology so we can ensure that it is in compliance with the business also.
Great. Jerome, final thoughts from you. Final comments.
Sure. So I mean, we are a technology company, so of course we are just an enabler for all banks and financial institutions. So we do our best to bring of course the best technologies to help these financial institutions to comply with local and global regulations. From as we said, right, from capturing the data, from capturing the interactions, up to the surveillance, the monitoring of the transactions. So this is our core business, and because we have global operations, we clearly see what's coming from Europe, from the US, and what may become applicable as well to the market in India. So yes, we are an enabler as a technology provider, and of course we are always pleased to work with our clients in this compliance journey.
Great. Thank you so much, panelists, for that wonderful discussion. We'll now open up the session for questions from our attendees. In fact, we've already got lots of them. Okay, the first question here that we have is, we all know the criticality and importance of compliance in every domain and industry. Still, companies don't follow or misconduct sometimes, which costs customers and business both. What are the 3 key measures and considerations that technology leaders should take to avoid such instances? Anybody who wants to take this up? 3 things that all technology business leaders need to keep in mind.
I think one very important thing is like you should have a governance structure within organization. Who should be who is responsible for handling compliance and relevant things. There should not be any delays to reporting this compliance, reporting this thing to regulators, or within a bank there is an compliance department. We have to keep on reporting those details, evidences, where we are. Say example, we said that there was something to do on a user management on one portal, and this is really not compliant because of some security policy, and that vendor is not really eligible to deliver that within definite time. So change that vendor. Go to some. That could be one example. So meeting a compliance within definite time and a timeline. So first thing, you should have a governance structure. Second thing, timelines and deadline, what you are given, it has to be tracked. And we have to adhere those timelines, because there is a penalty, maybe monetary or some other way, if you are not really compliant. That's very, very important aspect. Third thing, like keep on reviewing it to your stakeholders within the organization, having governance or having those timelines, but keep on reviewing those within a stakeholders, as well as the learnings or a summary of the stakeholder has to be reported to your management, CEO office, as well as at times sometimes required to the board members on a quarterly basis. So I think these are a very important, because technology will come and go, right? But this discipline aspect, having governance, having those timelines for that tracker, and regular reviews, and giving back those inputs to the board members and CEO. So they are also aware where we are as a bank, what is our compliance level. So I think if you handle that, the rest of the things, having technology, not having technology, or adopting the right technology as a part of one of those observations or one of those tasks, we will be able to do it. But I think these 3 things are very, very important in my view. Yeah.
Great. I'm sure that answers the question. So we have time for a couple of more questions. Okay, so this one is on startups. Gentleman says it's huge challenge to run startups with these many regulatory changes, I talked about, that 800 plus changes since March. So the gentleman is referring to that. Can these regulatory changes be categorized into must to adhere, good to have as a best practice? So
I think,
basically,
see,
from banking,
regulation will always come to how to really manage the overall business model, and it is in benefit of. I think, yeah. So I think regulator also has to learn ki why all of a sudden so many changes, right? And that to a scenario when pandemic is going on, startups are also under some pressure, right? So I think the answer for this is a twofold, right? Ask that question to a startup: how are you feeling today? Right, during pandemic, when you don't have much of business, now you are running. So as a speaker, we can always talk a lot many things, but the startup who is really suffering that now, he will be giving those realistic answers. But the question which is asked by the startups, ki why this regulation, I think it's very very important to really run startups in a good way. At the same time, there are a lot of schemes are coming from the government, right? There are a lot of hackathons are being organized. There are a lot of programs within Niti Aayog or Government of India is running to really nurture those startups. So answer is twofold. These regulations are required, must required. This to be reviewed, and as well as at the same time, government is really startup savvy. At least current government is really startup savvy. The way we have really nurtured so many programs within Niti Aayog, we have several strategy documents, and people are working around the strategy documents on AI, blockchain, or IoT, and drones. The state governments like Telangana are working very heavily on that. So in a nutshell, regulations will be always there. We need to review why so many regulations, and sooner or later we'll see some streamlined regulations around that. Okay, there was some startup tax or something. All those things were there, but I think that's also a bit dissolved. But regulation is really required. Otherwise, everybody, like say example, tomorrow I can create a startup like a new bank and start earning from bank as well as starting fintech as an aggregated agent, right?
no, sir.
There has to be a regulation around that. P2P, we're operating like Haywire. We converted into NBFC and got them into under a regulation aspect.
Sure.
Similarly, like while we create,
I would like to add, Yashwendra,
Sir.
the attendee who has asked this question, I would like to tell him that the 840 changes are there, but you have to see what are applicable to you. There are no mandatory regulations and non-mandatory regulations are all mandatory. So these are the rules of the game in which you have to do your business, and it is, if you adhere to them, it will sustain you for a longer term. That you have to ensure. So all regulations are mandatory. Good to have practices. Yeah, you can add in addition to the regulations.
Right, sure. Jerome, but are there any simplified solutions for startups, Jerome?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's a bit difficult because you have to monitor a lot of regulatory bodies in order to know if you want to be able to provide this type of advice. So, I mean, at NICE, we have a dedicated team of SMEs who is monitoring all regulations every day, right? So their job is to read regulations and to ensure mapping between what the regulator wants and what the technology we provide can cover. So it's a very long and tedious work. So when you are a startup, you need to partner, I guess. You need to partner either with the bank directly and or with the ecosystem. So you can partner with other technology vendors because of the size, we do have this the reach to the regulators, and we have the ability to monitor what's going on. So we can partner. That's maybe the best way I would deliver.
Sure.
And we do that. We do
Great.
that. We do partner with small companies. Don't get me wrong. Yeah.
Sure. Great, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have time for. To sum up today's discussion, regulatory risk has increased dramatically in the BFSI vertical. As a result, business technology leaders need to understand not just the need for regulatory compliance, but also become proficient in the process that need to be put in place to control and reduce compliance risk. An important aspect of professionalizing the compliance function is to align with the right technology partner. With this, we would like to bring the session to a close. Thank you once again, panelists, for those wonderful insights, and thank you, attendees, for sparing time for this session. Stay safe,
Thank you.
stay healthy, and have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.